see here what I'm doing here. I don't know if I'm doing good at all. Okay, so let me try. All right, so people, I'm going to try and talk today just a little bit about status, jurisdiction, understanding what that is, and how important it is. Now, I kind of left off yesterday about Title 18 has no, wasn't published in the Federal Register, doesn't have implementing regulations. Most of your bank acts don't. In fact, most legislative acts don't really apply to you as a person, real person, a human walking around. But that becomes a function of status. And status is a function of domain. So status and domain together create jurisdiction, which then creates authority. And authority is the thing that creates sovereignty. Because we understand our definition of sovereignty. In the Book Law of Nations, Section 1 talks about sovereignty is the organization of the government. Sovereigns are those living humans, people, that act to exercise sovereign authority, which created the sovereignty. So, but we'll take just a second and talk about the understanding power definition of words. So we have three words here: status, domain, jurisdiction. So if we look at the definitions of what those are, we take a look at status. Fukushima, stop. Sorry about that. But the definition of status is it's the relational position of an individual to another, or in relation to another or others, particularly in regard to social standing. Also defined as a state or condition of affairs, and also under the law, your status, the standing of a person before the law. I'm talking about you have to have standing to bring actions into court. That gives you your permission to be there. What is your the position that you have that gives you the permission or not the position to be there? Now, domain, another key word, and we'll find that here in just a second also in our book Law of Nations, but talks about the definition of domain as a field of action, thought, or influence, like the domain of science, the domain of many of the other thought processes and influences that we operate under. Those are considered to be domains. Everybody knows domain name of web pages, because it's concerning a particular field of action, thought, influence, a sphere of existence. Also denominated as a territory governed by a single ruler or government, their realm. Everybody talks about realms, you know. And then can also be done, recognized by geological or geophysical aspects. And then that relates to land, particularly where there's superior title and absolute ownership is the domain. Now, if we start understanding jurisdiction, how that operates, jurisdiction is always tied to domain, always. The authority operates from the ground that it is attached to. Your legislative acts that apply to you, attached to you because of the land that you're on, the territory that you happen to be standing in, is one of the primary elements to determine jurisdiction of another person in relationship to you. Which is why we talk a little bit about how Congress has got only, they've got under Article 4, they've got control over the territories and insular possessions, property of the United States. That's their territory that they have jurisdictional authority over. So we know about jurisdiction also. It's of right, which is juris, of law, and then diction is speaking. So what happens when you are, jurisdiction is basically the right of law that you have given consent to by speaking, by delegating authority to another, in your relationship to them, your status to them, or you're standing in a particular domain or territory, that is what creates your jurisdictional authority for your courts. Now, I've said in the past, and I can show it, and I will, that Article 3 courts were not granted any power in your Constitution for the United States of America. They weren't. Words aren't there. Article 1, legislative power here and granted. Article 2, executive power shall be vested, but he's president of where? The United States of America, a pre-existing organization, already existing. Article 3, the judicial branch, power shall be vested. Now, vested means to be handed over or given to, rights passed along to. But the power has to come first. It has to be, something has to be there in order to be granted. You can have power all day long. You can vest it all you want, but if you don't have the actual grant of authority to do that, it doesn't vest. The right's not transferred. What the Article 3 courts require from you, say, sovereign authority operating on your sovereignty or sovereign authority that you have as a man, they require you to speak, to delegate your authority to them. Article 3 courts, constitutional courts, the only ones that have any real authority over us as members of the constitutional republics, require our authorization in order to work for us, which is why most of the time you don't get those things. Even if you ask for them, you're not doing it properly. Okay? Now, Congress, under its so-called territorial powers, they can empower their court systems to do whatever they want. But those courts, your Article 4 courts, your United States District Courts, those are operating under the Article 4 provisions of Congress, Congress's authority. And they can only deal with matters dealing with congressional matters that they have been given subject matter jurisdiction over, which happens to pertain to the organization and operation of the government itself, and employees of that, or contractors, people doing business with, engaging contracts with your United States government, or being one of the physical territories, the actual domain, the dirt that you're standing on, have to be standing on. Okay? This is why most statutes, most criminal statutes, even civil statutes, don't apply to you as a lawful sovereign authority, an individual private member of society. So what they've done is they create all these different ways: implied consent, adhesion contracts. You sign up for a so-called benefit from the government, and giving up one of your constitutionally protected rights they claim is the consideration for the contract to make it light and all this. Your government officials are criminals, period, end of story. Okay? So it's so important for us to start understanding these things. Wish I was a better teacher of this information. But today it's just important for you to start thinking about your relationship to yourself, number one, and to your immediate family, number two, your neighbors, number three, the fact that those number of individuals come together in a neighborhood, a city, and create a minor governmental authority there, your city level, counties, the states, the federal, okay? All about status. Status then relates to domain, where you're standing, what piece of dirt you're standing on, who has a jurisdictional control or jurisdictional authority on that, in that particular area. Now, I live in Salt Lake City, in the Republic of Utah. Now, the state of Utah, though, operates in what would appear to be conflict with the provisions of the Constitution for the United States of America, which create that federal grouping, independent republic states, and allow other things besides gold and silver to be made money. Do all these things that appear to be uh, non-constitutional, unconstitutional, but are they really? Because if we take a look at understanding too, again, the word domain, okay, the field of what? Action, thought, influence. It is also a concept, can be. So the state of Utah is not the same as the Republic of Utah. Is it? No. They're not supposed to have concurrent jurisdiction, but that's a topic for another day. So the state of Utah does not necessarily have the same rights, privileges, benefits in its relationship to me as a sovereign individual member, private member of society that the Republic of Utah would have. The state of Utah operates under Congress's Article 4 authority. It's a territory of the United States of America, which they've also created a secondary organization for, because the United States of America, even though it was named as that's the style, the name of that grouping under the Articles of Confederation, is still what? A concept. It's not an actual physical place. Okay? The United States is a physical place in one sense, and one sense only. The 10-mile square of District Columbia. That's it. Oh, and it's insular possessions and territories that attach to that. But that's the only dirt that they have. Okay? Very important to start understanding the difference between the state of Utah and the Republic of Utah. They're not the same place. They have entirely different rules, regulations, laws, things that apply to them through jurisdiction. And how they get their jurisdictional authority over you also is different. In the Republic, they don't have authority to interact with you in any kind of way. In fact, outside of their duty, their obligation to protect your individual, private, naturally occurring rights. That's it. That's it. And to help you through that process to work toward your own perfection. Now, the state of Utah, however, being a artificially created entity also, operating under the exclusive legislative authority of Congress under Article 4, backed all the nonsense, the lying crap that they've gone on, it has to get you into contractual agreements with it, which they do under code of law, under force of threat, through duress, your driver's license, your business license, your marriage license, this fee, that fee, your property taxes, which aren't a tax at all. They can't tax dirt, and they know it, which is why they don't. Okay? Okay? But they get you into all these situations where you're contracting away and actually opting to be part of their jurisdiction, come over to be part of their domain through implied consent, through even voluntary consent sometimes. Okay? So we have to start understanding the difference between status domain. In fact, those two things, your standing and where you're standing, creates the jurisdiction. The jurisdiction is spoken, is done, decided specifically by you and your actions, what you're doing, what you're saying, what you're, where you are, where you believe that you are. And from you using your authority and your law, and then speaking, which is the diction part of juris, that juris is you, lawful you determining what the law is for you, and speaking that creates the authority. which is then delegated to the sovereignty to work on your behalf. And sometimes benefits that they claim are benefits to you are not necessarily seems to be positive things for you. Okay? They claim that putting you in prison is a benefit to you. Can be. Okay? So if we look in our book, Law of Nations, Book 2, Section 84 talks about jurisdiction just a little bit. And I'm going to close up here because I've got to come back and make some better notes. But it talks about the sovereignty united to the domain establishes the jurisdiction of the nation in her territories or the country that belongs to her. Her being the sovereign authority, whatever that is, your local government. In the province, to exercise justice in all places under their jurisdiction and to take cognizance of the crimes committed and the differences that arise in the country. Okay, so I'll come back and talk a bit more about country, what that is, what it really means, how we can, what the rights of the state are, sovereignty, what they're supposed to be doing, what we can do when they don't do those things for us. You know, so they used some of these principles when they wrote that Declaration of Independence. If you think that you can't create your own country right now, you can't create your own form of government that has all the sovereign immunities of your so-called state governments and federal governments, city governments, well, I guarantee you can. Not a very difficult process either. Because we have to remember, too, we live here supposedly in a place where everyone's equal under the law, right? So if they're able to enforce things against me, but I can't have an equal right to be defended or defend myself, that's an inequality under the law. And since all persons created or natural are equal under the law, I certainly can have sovereign immunity. Okay? We just have to do it properly. We have to understand what our true status is, understand what our true authority is, understand really who and what we are. Not spend a bunch of time with 10,000 court citations and Supreme Court case holdings and all those different things. No, we need to understand this book, Law of Nations. It's the only thing we really ever have to quote to because it is superior to your Constitution for the United States. And that's just a maxim of law and understanding and statutory construction of the things that come prior to. The order of things in which they appear gives them additional weight. Okay? So, anyways, start thinking about those things in your relationship between yourself and your governance. Okay? An understanding of sovereign authority, sovereignty. Government's supposed to work for the people, isn't it? Well, why aren't they? Huh? They are. They're working for their people. I know everybody hates that Citizens United. They came out and said that corporations are people basically, and they can vote through money. That's their freedom of speech through money. That's their people that they're working for. Okay? They're a foreign jurisdiction to you. They're a foreign country to you. Okay? The federal government of the United States is foreign to the Republic of Utah. Okay? I'll even show you too here, one of my upcoming ones too, where they have treaties, detainer treaties, where they put treaties in place for the exchange of prisoners, exchange of people from one jurisdiction to another, from one foreign country to another. Okay? So understand status and dominion, your relationship and where you're standing on the dirt, the actual physical place that you find yourself in is everything. We'll also talk later on about crimes of commission versus crimes of omission and the difference that it makes in being able to apply jurisdictional authority to you based upon where the event happened or where it didn't happen. So status and domain create jurisdiction. Jurisdiction then creates authority. Authority then creates permission for them to work for you or on your behalf. So these aren't very good. I better do a better job of writing my notes, but best thing you can do is just read this book. It's so simple. It's all there, everything. Okay? Now, there's a lot of other great information out there. A lot of different patriot groups put together a lot of great information very complex, very detailed, a lot of court cases and opinions and rules and regulations, federal law, state law, this, that, now. You know what? Hey, we have to come back to just a basic understanding of what common law is, which is pretty much codified in your Ten Commandments, supposedly. In common law, it's just, no damage to another party. You have total and complete liberty to do anything you need to do. They can't deny you those rights which you have remaining from the state of primitive communion. That's in Book 2, Section 116 and 117. What are those rights? Rights you cannot be deprived of, ever. Cannot be denied to you. Can't be legislated away from you. Can't be contracted away by you. It leads to your right of necessity. We have the use of everything on this planet, which is those rights remaining from the state of primitive communion before governments. I have a right to meet my indispensable obligations. That gives me a perfect right. If it's an indispensable obligation, one of those is my right of worship. My right to use any substance on this planet in order to help me better develop and define my relationship, my personal worship with my Creator. Your criminal laws of general applicability do not attach to me in that instance. And particularly since I'm taking myself out of the jurisdiction of the Congress in your Article 4 territorial authority, not a public officer. And since Title 18, no implementing regulation has been published in the Federal Register, I guess you'd come arrest me, but you can't prosecute me because you can't find a court that has jurisdictional authority, which has to be granted to them under you guys under Title 18, or criminal codes. No criminal codes, guess what? No criminal action, period. Okay? Then we can talk about all the things I can do to you because you're a foreign agent operating outside the mandated authority. You've lost the immunity, so-called immunity of your office. What I can do to you as a private member, private individual of society, just like I am. I can bring to bear all the everything in common law torts. Take everything you think that you own. See? That, people, that's about as simple as our argument has to be. It doesn't have to be much more complicated than that. Now we can shore that up with certain things, but that's it. That's it. Okay? Well, I shouldn't say that's it, but that's getting a good framework. You can start understanding it. Don't have to be an attorney. It doesn't have to be 5,000 pages that you put into the court. In fact, you'll be better off. The simple things that I talk to people about, paperwork that be filing in, because guess what? Your judges, the people looking at this stuff, have to read all that stuff. You think they want to read through 5,000 pages? No. Okay? That's why they do it to us, because they know they don't want to. Okay? No, simple, simple, simple. Pleading, simple filing. They're talk about how to do all those things, how to do them properly, how to write them properly, how to structure them. Okay? So, okay, start empowering yourself by reading this book, Law of Nations. Number one, you have to got to do that. Okay? So, we have our rights remaining from the state of primitive communion, rights of which we cannot be deprived ever. Our rights of necessity, which gives us the anything that would be considered to be unlawful is not unlawful if it's something we deem necessary, the perfect right to fulfill one of our indispensable obligations and the duties attendant to that. Well, this happens to be personal worship. If I want to use cannabis in my personal worship, I'm going to use cannabis because I'm the sovereign authority that gets to decide what's necessary for me. As long as my actions are not infringent upon the rights, liberties of any other individual. So, I'll leave it there today, well, at least for right now. Okay. So once again, my name's Russ Jensen from Salt Lake City, Utah. It's 2:30 p.m. approximately on the 28th of December, 2016, and I'm once again pledging my life, my fortune, my sacred honor to you, your families, all other species on this planet. Do what I can to help throw off these chains of tyranny, help people become really free like you believe that you should be, like we absolutely have got to be, in order for conscious awareness to continue to expand, to continue to perfect itself. That is the only purpose of life, working towards perfection. So, love everybody, and I'll talk to you next time.